Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, my name is Divyanka and I'm a doctor of pharmacy in the US. I'm living my best professional life, and here on this channel, I'm here to help you live your best and most productive life. Today's video is the fourth video in my Midyear 2020 series. Midyear is an annual national convention held for pharmacists nationwide, and although you can take part in many events during Midyear, one of the main events that happens is applying for fellowship programs. This series is for you guys out there who are applying for these postdoctorate fellowships in the pharmaceutical industry. Every video talks about something different, and today we're talking about your resume. Now, the first aspect I want to talk about is a service that is available to you. Over the past few months, many of you have reached out and asked if I could review your resume. A resume is a lifelong working document that kind of haunts all of us throughout our life, but it doesn't have to be scary. I know when you're applying for positions or these fellowships, it can be really daunting to know where your resume stands, if your resume is good enough, how you should change things on your resume if you should change them, and it can be really helpful to have a second, third, fourth pair of eyes to review and look over your resume. So if you guys are interested in having me review your guys' resume, whether for general purposes, for fellowship applications, or job applications, etc., go ahead and click on the link in the description bar below, which is going to take you to a Google form where you'll find more information and we'll connect from there. Alright, so now on to the topic of resumes for fellowship applications. Now, when I was going through the midyear process myself last year, I actually made some drastic changes to my resume for fellowship applications specifically. I did this because my resume was not necessarily tailored for fellowships beforehand. It was tailored to give a good overview of my experiences, but not necessarily to anyone who understands pharmacy, who understands the PharmD program, who understands the objective of a fellowship, etc. So when I made edits to my resume before applying to fellowships last year, it wasn't necessarily in regards to content, but it was in regards to how I was showcasing that content, how I was highlighting my experiences, my leadership, etc. in a way where I knew my target audience was people who understood PharmDs, people who know that I'm applying for fellowship programs, and again, in general, just people who know the basics of a PharmD program. Now, this is really important because, again, when you're applying to fellowship programs, you know that the person on the other side of the table understands the objective of having a fellowship, why you would be applying to a fellowship program, the normal coursework and year layout of a PharmD program, etc. You can actually use this to your advantage because there are some things that you're going to be doing in your curriculum, whether it's in your APPEs, your other rotations, etc., that a pharmacist would understand better. So knowing that the person on the other side of your resume understands pharmacy jargon, understands what might be on your resume is very, very helpful. Now, because you know this, you also need to strategize how you're structuring your resume. This is, again, extremely helpful because you know who they're trying to hire as a fellow. They want a good student. They want a student who has great leadership skills. They want a student who will best utilize the training given in a fellowship program and then use that knowledge to move forward, better the company they're working for and the department they're working for to, of course, produce great work in the future. They're, of course, also looking for unique individuals who are different from the rest of the crowd, who stand out amongst their peers. So if you know that these are the aspects that they're looking for in a candidate, you want to utilize the page space on your resume strategically. You want to point them exactly to what you want them to read. You, of course, want to highlight what you think is more important on every resume, but moreover, you want to ensure that the information you want to be read is actually read. Some people don't read through your whole resume, especially for fellowships when they're going through candidate after candidate. It can get really monotonous to read through these resumes, so you want to make sure that you're presenting the information in the most direct and easy to read way. So in this video, I'm going to highlight sections that I think would be helpful to have on your resume when applying for fellowship programs specifically, to again highlight the information that you really want to highlight and strategize the sections of your resume in a way where the people who are reading it will find the information they're looking for and actually like it. So the first section I think is really important to have is skills or technical skills. I often don't see people putting this as a section on their resume, and I think it can be incredibly important. If I have a set of skills that I've gained from my previous experiences that aren't explicitly listed, this is where I would list them. if you know unique languages, if you know any software systems or tech systems, if you have experience from previous pharmaceutical industry internships or other experiences of the sort, if you have experiences that are really helpful in the pharmaceutical industry, such as medical writing, special skills in statistics, special projects, again, this is where I would highlight it. It takes the second guessing out of the game. You're listing the skills that you have for them. They can quickly and very easily read through that list because it's laid out for them, and they can have a holistic view of the skills you bring to the table. Now, the second section that I think is really important to have is leadership. Everyone is always looking for a leader, but especially in this case, they are wanting to hire someone who is a leader so that they can be a great leader not only in this fellowship, but in their roles past that. But they'll only know that if you show them you have a track record of great leadership. So as long as you have enough experiences, I would make this a section and highlight exactly how you've been a leader, what you've done in those roles of leadership. This list of experiences can definitely go beyond being in leadership positions for clubs and organizations on campus. So definitely think outside of the box for this. But again, you want to highlight your best leadership roles that you've attained so far. Now, the next section that I think is important to have on your resume is posters and presentations. In the pharma industry, pitches, slide deck presentations of all sorts happen all the time on a daily basis. So again, you need to show the people who are interviewing you and looking at your resume that you've done posters, you've done presentations up until now, and then going forward, if they're just reading your resume and they are to interview you, then you can go into depth, of course, about these presentations and make sure they know that you're comfortable with doing posters and presentations, and that is something that you would succeed at in this fellowship program. Now, the next section that I think is a good to have on your resume is industry experience. Now, this is definitely not a must-have, especially if you don't have prior industry experience, which, by the way, is totally fine. You can definitely still apply to fellowships without any prior industry experience and still land one. Many people have, so don't let that scare you away. But if you have had the chance of having any previous pharma industry experience, I think it's actually really helpful to lay that out separately. So what I personally did was I had an industry experience section right above and before my other experiences to, again, highlight what I want them to read. I want them to see that I have pharma industry experience and this is what I've done with it. So I just made a section for them to look straight at that information. Again, very readily available. And because I've categorized it as that, you know they're going to read it as, oh, she has industry experience. So again, this is a nice to have, but I do think it's helpful if you have those experiences. Now, the last section I want to talk about is, again, definitely a nice to have, but I had it on my resume and I think that it led to a lot of other questions, so I just wanted to add it here. I have a section that's called entrepreneurship and marketing. I have a lot of side gigs and I do a lot on the side, so a lot of what I do and am passionate about kind of fell in this entrepreneurship and marketing category. Now, why I did this was to show them that I'm a unique candidate and I have something that other people might not have, but also, again, as a conversation starter, because they see that and because they don't usually see that, they're more bound to ask about it. Be like, hey, tell me about this. Tell me about this specific thing under your entrepreneurship and marketing section on your resume. And that did happen in interviews. So again, it's just a section to make my resume look a little different, stand out. And for you, it doesn't have to be entrepreneurship or marketing. If you have something else to offer that might not even directly relate to fellowships or pharmacy, I really suggest that you list it. It'll make you stand out. It'll be a good conversation starter. And I think why it's really important is because if they see that you are also doing other things and you have interest in other things and you are being successful in other ways, again, it really doesn't have to do with pharmacy. They'll understand you more as a person. You're more personable that way. They can see that you are succeeding not only in pharmacy, not only as a student or a leader, but you're doing more than that. And those other things that you are taking part of in life definitely have transferable skills. So if it's ever brought up in conversation, it's your job to show them, hey, I'm doing this, but this is how it relates to what I want to be doing in this fellowship. And again, this is why I'm a great candidate. So you can really spin that in a way that's to your benefit. So again, that's not a must-have, but I do really think that some section that kind of puts your resume in a different space than others is extremely helpful. Now, overall, that is it for this video. I really hope this is helpful. I personally really know what goes into applying for fellowships and the whole process. So I really hope that this information made one of the pieces of the process easier for you guys. If you guys have any follow-up questions, do not be afraid to email me, contact me, comment below with any questions, all of the above, and I will definitely be sure to get back to you. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, if you want your resume reviewed by me, go ahead and find more details on the Google form in the description below. That is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and you guys will see me in the next one.